Hello everybody and welcome to the Global Reviews webinar today. I'm Rebecca Jennings and I'm going to be talking you through this webinar, which is the first in our UK banking series, looking at some of the recent research we have done in the UK banking sector, drilling down on specific brands, starting with Santander. So very quickly, for those of you who may be new to us. As I say, I'm Rebecca Jennings. I'm Principal Client Advisor here at Global Reviews. We are a market-leading research and advice company based across Europe, US, North America and Australia, working in all of those markets right now. We've been doing this for around 15 years, and as you'll see, our research gives you a really clear insight into how users in your markets find your brand and other brands, how they make decisions on which brands to go to visit, to choose, and how they fare when they actually go through your website in terms of finding products, comparing products, selecting products, and going through the application process. I'll talk you very quickly through that methodology in a moment. But as I say, what we're going to be talking about today is the research we've been doing in the banking sector. That's a very well-established sector across our territories. Certainly in the UK, we run research on mortgages, current accounts, savings, loans, investments, to say but a few. So what I'm going to talk about today primarily is the research that's come out of the latest wave of particularly the mobile insight, looking at how consumers do research and compare products on mobile devices, and some of the results across those industries. As I say, I'm particularly drilling down into some of the results for one brand, Santander, as part of a series into looking at specific big brands in the UK. So very quickly, what the research is and where it comes from. What we're going to be looking at today is something called fruition. This is our research that takes place both on desktop and mobile. And so what we're going to be talking about today is on the mobile devices, but it's also conducted on desktop as well as a separate study. Now, fruition takes users from the very beginning of the discover phase in terms of finding brands in a market. We recruit in-market consumers in their own homes, in their own environments, using their own technology. Usually based on simply the makeup of that consumer in market. Those audience can be tailored if you have a particular requirement, but normally they are just representative of the market. And we ask them to go and do some research to find a brand that suits their needs. We ask them a number of questions about that journey, initial preferences before research. We can see how those change, who they have existing relationships with, why they visit the brands they visit, the brands they put in a shortlist, and the brands they might finally prefer in terms of which brands they might actually pick at this point to take out a mortgage or a credit card or a savings account with. At that point, we can identify what we call the lost opportunity. Now, that is the percentage of people who put your brand on a shortlist. So you've done a lot of work in terms of getting yourself to the shortlist of maybe 3-4 brands they're thinking of to take out a current account or take out a mortgage, but then you lose them. At the final choice, they choose somebody else. And that's obviously a really interesting crunch point. That's almost some low-hanging fruit, if you like, because you've done a lot of work to get into the shortlist, but just at that final hurdle, you get lost. So what is that lost opportunity for brands and what can we do about it? Then we move into the consider phase. At this point, a group of consumers, separate group of consumers for each brand, are directed to a website, mobile site that they're not a current customer of, and they're asked to do a number of things. They're asked to find particular products, match to needs, do some comparing, and actually go through an application process as far as they can. We track everything they do. We can see how they succeed, which pages they go to, where they succeed, where they fail, how long it takes them. We also obviously ask them a lot of questions about that journey, what worked, what didn't, what were the key pains they had on the way. So we get a full idea of how the consumers see the site and what they could achieve and what the problems were. We also supplement that with around 250 question features and functions audit, which is a yes/no set of questions around what kind of say features and functions best practice does the site actually offer. So at the end of this, we have a set of data that comes out of both consumers saying how they achieve particular tasks, what they thought about it, laid alongside and on top of this features and functions audit, the yes/no criteria conducted by the internal experts. So you get both sides of the view of the performance of the website. As I say, this really gives a full 360 vision of how the site is performing, both in terms of getting consumers to use tasks. We measure their success, satisfaction, confidence, where they go, so click streams, time they took, what problems they have, but also then the attitudinal side of it. What do they actually think of that experience? Because for some cases, it could be something that takes a while. You might have a site that takes a little while for them to find the product, but actually the journey is quite easy. The journey is fairly self-explanatory. When they get to the comparison site, it's very nicely laid out and they can see what they want. So actually, sometimes perhaps time taken isn't necessarily correlated with success or satisfaction. So it's interesting to see the different perspectives on this. And obviously, yes, I say more attitudinal questions about what's important to them, did they like it, and a lot of voice of customer. As I say, at every step that is overlaid and complemented by the features and functions audit, which is something we write internally for every product stream. There is a tailored criteria set for every product stream that we write, every vertical. We work, as I say, across banking, but of course we work across a number of other verticals too. So we have energy, travel, sports betting, retail, higher education. So there's a lot of knowledge and insight that goes into what really are the best practice and what are the features and functions that the site users needs. So we build this separate criteria for every vertical, and I say very much a yes/no criteria. It's not do you like the color, is it pretty? It's very much a it does or it doesn't do, it doesn't have. So every step of the journey, you'll see research that comes from both the consumers and what they say and do and can and cannot do, but also this feature and functions audit. So if you remember a moment ago, what I showed you was a journey that started at the discover phase of how consumers find brands in your market. What do they do? How do they initially prefer brands? What are their almost prejudices when they come into the market? Who do they visit? Where do they put brands on the short list, and who do they finally prefer? And where are you as a brand losing or gaining consumers in that? So obviously we all start with, as I was saying, almost a prejudice, a idea of who you might have in a market if you were going out to get. In this particular case, I put savings, mortgages, and current accounts, because so those are three of our key verticals here in the UK. So we've got a number of others, but starting with those. Where do we even start as a consumer? Well, for most of these brands, obviously, it is very much driven by both existing custom, which is great at this point. It's really interesting to look at this as you go through and how that changes. You will find there are some brands who keep those current customers and some brands who actually lose a lot of those by the time you get to the end. So it's really interesting to have this vision at the beginning of, okay, I'm a user, I'm driven by my current customer. I love Barclays or I love Santander, I'm going to stick with them. I'll then go and do some research, and actually by the end I've changed my mind. So the first preferences are very much driven by, say, current custom, perception of good customer service, but also this idea of trust and reputation. So perhaps I'm not a current customer. I may have been in the past or may not have ever been, but actually I have a view of this brand as trustworthy. It's a good and with a good reputation. Mortgage is a little bit different to some of the others. Mortgage is the blue one in the middle, so a little bit lower overall in terms of trust. It's still the highest, but slightly lower in terms of percentage of users who quoted it, and slightly higher, or towards the higher end in terms of current custom. So maybe people persuade by deals from the provider that they already have a current account with, for example. Also makes it easy, maybe, but also driven again still by reputation, still by previous use. So very much first preference before people do any research is driven by okay, inertia is strong. I'd rather stick with the people I know. They're pretty good. Or I've got a good idea about a couple of brands in the market, or this brand, because I trust them and the reputation is strong. But then we see something happens when people go out into the market. They go to aggregators, they go to Google, they go to the website of their own provider and have a look at what they've actually got in reality, rather than just sitting there at home thinking, oh, I think they'd be good. I think they probably have something that suited my needs. When they actually go and do the research, things start to change. Now, because this is a webinar, normally in these situations, what we'd do for a particular client is we would spend maybe 3 hours going through the data and the insight for your particular brand. We have about 45 minutes this morning. So what I've done is I've truncated and summarized some of the data that you get from the Discover research. But this is just a really nice way of I think, illustrating the journey that brands go on when we're going through the consider phase, or so the discover phase, moving to consider when consumers are looking for brands. So what we're looking for in terms here is the first step is recollection. So unprompted, who would spontaneously cite your brand as a provider of this particular product, so current account. Initial preference, so as we've just seen, who would go out and just say, actually, yes, I'd go with these guys now without having done any research. They look like the preference. Shortlist is, okay, I've got to a stage where there may be 3 brands I'm interested now. I'm going to spend a little bit more time actually going down, drilling down into what their products actually are and what they would offer for me. And then I'll decide. And then final preference, fairly obviously, is, okay, if I had to choose right now, right here, right now, who would I go with? So this is all, as I say, tracked and a result of seeing where people go and visit, and then obviously asking questions about that journey. And we can see, say, the differing fortunes of some of the brands in this market. We've got bring out probably 2 or 3 just here. Obviously, this particular case, Santander, doing reasonably well. We'll see in a minute, it's not universally the case. In this particular market, 4th in terms of recollection, spontaneous recollection, actually fairly poor in terms of initial preference. People don't necessarily think at this point that Santander would be the right product for them, but actually in terms of shortlist and preference, ranking number 1. A couple of the other ones I'd bring out here that are doing poorly, we can really see what's going on in terms of Barclays, for example, top in recollection, top in initial preference. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, I know Barclays, I think they'd be the one for me. But actually at the end, they've dropped back to 4th preference, big drop behind Nationwide and First Direct, as well as Santander. And similarly, we're seeing a drop for Lloyds, another big brand in the market. Great recollection, good preference, and then dropping down in terms of shortlist and final preference. We see similar things happening in terms of savings. Savings dominated particularly by Nationwide across the board here. We've got Nationwide going from recollection, preference, shortlist, final preference. Halifax dropping down, and then Santander sort of going around 2nd and 3rd in this particular market. Interestingly, from left field, you have Tesco coming on this one from not appearing in spontaneous recollection at all, unsurprisingly, not necessarily a brand you'd generally think of for this, but actually by the time we get to final preference, we're looking at 6th, so low down, but really having had no recollection and no initial preference, doing a big push primarily on aggregators and around search results, which gets people putting them in their final preference at 6th. And then finally, the key one we're going to look at in terms of pain here is mortgages. And we'll see in a minute why some of this might be, particularly for Santander in terms of recollection, coming as 3rd spontaneous recollection. Dropping down immediately in terms of preference. Again, we're seeing Nationwide dominate across those stages here, but we're also seeing Halifax perform pretty well, where we're seeing HSBC perform well, but the opposite for Santander in this particular market. And I say this is mortgages on mobile, and this research was done in the middle of this year, so it's pretty recent. Normally the research is run on a 6 monthly basis, so we're going to be running this again very soon, and we'll have some brand new data by the end of the year, so we get a good pulse on the industry on a regular basis. But certainly, so this research seems to show that while people are aware of Santander as a brand, it's pretty low in terms of even initial preference. People not so keen on saying at this point, yeah, I'll go with them. I think before research. Then actually by the time we get to the post-research phase, final preference, we're getting Santander down as 7th in terms of final preference, behind Nationwide, but also behind HSBC, Yorkshire come in there, again from pretty much from nowhere. We've got Halifax, Barclays, and again then First Direct, which is a brand we know, but again in this particular market coming in from a low recollection and preference through to pipping Santander for 6th place. So particularly we see here Santander losing consumers as we go through the process. But what's also happening is we need to look at this over time. That was a snapshot of the middle of this year, and we did see Santander obviously in the mortgages falling down, doing pretty well in terms certainly of current accounts and savings, but actually again, so what we need to look at is that they progress over time and how that is changing. And again, we are seeing not such a great performance here, so things to start to perhaps worry about a little. So this is current account final preference over the last 3 waves when we run this data. So that goes across Q2 18, Q4 17, Q2 17, and so we run this usually on a 6 monthly basis. So what we're seeing here is while Santander are still topping that market just in this last wave, they're actually equal pretty much with Nationwide. They come at the top of the graph, so I think they had one more person prefer them. We're going to get granular, but really vying head-to-head with Nationwide and only just above First Direct in Q2. What we've also seen is a decline in their preference, just slightly over the last year, from 17 down to 15. So we're starting to see a little bit of a wobble here in terms of the market. Similarly with savings, we've only run savings twice in the new iteration fruition's pretty new product. While we've been doing research in this market for 15 years, this evolution of the product is pretty new. So we've got 2 waves of the Discover mobile, and that, as I say, is also seeing Santander drop from 11% to 8% over that time. And then finally, we see mortgages, where we've already just seen poor performance in terms of decline from initial final preference down to final preference. We're already seeing a sort of weakness here. And this is really, again, showing how this is something that's being sustained in our research over time. We're seeing them go from 12% final preference through to 9, through to 6 in the last wave of this data. So what we're seeing is a poor performance, but it's a poor performance that is sustainably getting worse over the last 3 waves of the research. So there is an issue here. There is an issue with the mobile, particularly mortgage journey that is causing consumers to turn away from the brand and not choose them as their final preference. And as I said at the beginning, what we look at a lot of the time is what we call lost opportunity. This is something that shows the percentage, as I say, of the people who put them on a shortlist who ultimately don't pick the brand. And obviously, the higher that is, the worse for you as a brand. You're losing more people who put you on a shortlist, and that's bad, as I say, because you've done some quite hard work to get onto a shortlist, and it's at that final point where people go, out of these 2 or 3, no, I'm not choosing you in the end. You haven't done enough in the end. You were interesting maybe on the aggregator, or the ad I saw was kind of eye-catching, but actually I've got to stay from looked at products, and you're not the one for me. So Santander are losing 64% in savings, 58% in current accounts, but a 68% in mortgages, and that is actually the worst lost opportunity we have in this market in terms of for mortgages. We've actually got the worst lost opportunity. They have a pretty poor sort of middling for the other markets, but really the worst lost opportunity we have in mortgages. So the pain we've got here, and we're going to move on in a moment to the actual website itself. The pain is very much that we're seeing a decline, particularly in the mortgages side of things in terms of preference, but also in current accounts. But we're also seeing a very poor and worse in the market lost opportunity in mortgages. So what's going on? Why are people choosing the brand they choose at the end of this process, and why perhaps is Santander not doing as well as it could? Again, trust, reputation, current customer very strong, again, particularly for mortgages when it comes to final preference. But we're also starting to see for 25–30%, the options are easy to understand. The website helped me compare options, 20% of mortgage users are saying. The website's easy to understand and use. So the website made me find the best account for my needs. These are all strong influences for groups of consumers. And even when you look at things like they had the best account offer for my needs, that might be true, but if I can't find it on the website, that's still not going to be an influence for me. It might be the case of some of the people out there that Santander does have the best mortgage for them, but the site makes it so hard to find and compare that they're not seeing it. And I say that's very much what we're going to look at when we come into the next phase, because again, when we look at specifically why people choose Santander, it is the areas where they underweight against the market are generally things like the website helped me find the best mortgage, but again, things like the lowest fees, best mortgage offer for my needs. It will be the case that in a lot of these cases, consumers just aren't finding those products on the site, and they aren't being able to compare them particularly easily, and they're giving up early in the journey because the process is just too hard to get through. So now we move on to that consider and act phase, where people have actually looked at a specific brand website, mobile site in this particular case, and done some tasks, and we've asked the voice of customer, and we've got that audit side. I like this quote, just users spend most of their time on other sites. That means the users prefer your site to work the same way as all the sites they already know. That does not mean it needs to look exactly the same. It does not mean we want cookie cutter bland websites, but it does mean there are some things that people just expect to be able to do, icons to do particular things. They expect things to be the right size, and it just means you can't go reinventing the wheel, and it's not worth trying. Overall, the consider and act phase of fruition produces a score. All of that research, the audits, the tasks, the questions, all those scores get put into a big black box. There are scores at every stage of the journey. We'll see that in a moment, but overall, there is a score. I always say at this point, almost the score is the least important thing out there because in the study, because actually, while it enables you to compare yourself against the other brands in the market and obviously track change, what's really interesting is we start to drill down on what makes up that score and what you can really realistically do about it. Fruition is very much about saying, okay, in the next maybe 6 to 12 months, in the next couple of waves of the research, how can we help you improve your lost opportunity? How can we help you improve this score by making actionable tweaks, giving you actionable insight to actually start to improve your lost opportunity, improve your conversion, essentially. So we'll drill down to that in a moment. But just to make the point again here that, particularly for mortgages, the mobile site, the Santander particular mobile site, is underperforming the market. The best score we have for mortgages is 62%. That's nationwide. They do reasonably well across most of the markets that we look at. Lloyd's actually lead for current accounts, nationwide lead for mortgages, and Lloyd's actually lead for savings. This is ordered in terms of mortgages, so that's the one we're going to be focusing on. So you can see Santander just gets a 52% for mortgages and puts them pretty much towards the penultimate score in the whole set here of these brands that we've been looking at for mortgages. So what's really going on? Where is the key pain? As I say, the scores are amalgamated to make that one score, but of course there are far more granularity across the journey, there are scores at each of these stages as consumers go through the mortgage research and purchase process. So encouraging browsing, so the site, the landing page is the mortgage page. Does it make me think, oh, there'll be something here that suits my needs? Do I trust it? Does it make life easy for me in terms of being drawn into the site? Comparing products, or what have you got? Can I see the differences between them? What might suit my needs particularly? Understanding detail, so drilling down and going, well, actually what is the APR? Can I understand what the real detail of this product is and take it away easily? Getting help, so I've got a problem, who do I reach out to? Can I do it online? Is there live chat, which is normally the key tool that users look for these days? Live chat, great FAQ, and then finally into purchasing the product, which is obviously going through an initial application. We're not obviously asking people to, in the course of our research, apply for an actual mortgage, but they go through with dummy data as far as they can and give us some insight into how the application process performs. So a couple of things in terms of the Santander site. While overall the landing page, home pages aren't performing too badly, we do get some voice of customer that says actually it's underscoring a lot of other brands in terms of some of the key hygiene factors of initial impressions, really. So underperforming particularly Barclays and Lloyds here in terms of trust, in terms of visual appeal, in terms of navigation being effective, particularly underperforming in terms of looks like an easy website to use, encourages me to dig deeper into what this brand is offering. People are looking at it and going, oh, I think this could be a bit of a challenge here. I'm sure you've probably got something there, but actually my first impression is not good. It's not making me think, okay, I can easily get into this website and find something that's good. Number of things going on there. There's a lot of imagery, which doesn't really help. It just pushes those call to actions down the page. The call to actions are small. One of the key issues we often find with mobile devices is that the call to actions are just so easily mistakenly tapped by a thumb or a finger, depending on how people navigate. A lot of us use our thumbs. It's just so easy to hit the wrong thing, particularly with things like hamburger menus, particularly with things like these call to actions here. All the call to actions say the same thing. So the initial impressions are poor in terms of, I'm not sure I'd be able to use this easily. I'm not sure it's encouraging me to actually spend any more time here. Some examples, it's just on nobody scores 10. There's always room for improvement. Barclays, page is long, a little bit clearer. Consumers finding this a little bit easier to figure out where to go. So just simple things like these call to actions are a bit bigger, but they also have specific terminology on each of them. Rather than just saying find out more, as all the Santander ones say, the Barclays one's actually specific to what it is that you're going to. So remortgage with us, first time buyers, mortgage FAQs, they're all specific, and it's very obvious that that's what's going to happen when I tap this, rather than, as I say, all the Santander ones just saying find out more. So if you're scrolling up and down quickly, it's very easy to tap the wrong one. So a bit clearer, call to actions clearer. But you've also got live chat, contextual FAQs linked on this page. And again, that's really interesting because you probably don't have many questions just yet, but it just shows that these tools exist when and if you need them. You're not going to have to start digging through the website for ages trying to find a phone number or trying to find the web chat. As I say, that's often the key first port of call for many people. You're not going to have to start digging through to find the FAQ. They are there and they're relevant. I don't have to go off to some different FAQ page, find the mortgages, find the problem, find the question. I say at this point I don't necessarily have a question, but at least I now know it will be easy to reach out for help on this website when I have questions. RBS take a very different approach, and this is very clear, and it's extremely targeted. You'll see very different in terms of no imagery, in terms of smiley people on this page. Much more looks like it's specifically been designed mobile first. So page is short, targeted, our mortgages, those calls to action, those interactive elements are much bigger in terms of being able to hit those with my thumb. I'm not going to hit the wrong one there. They're all very clearly labelled. I can go straight into the calculators and tools from the top, because often that's the first place that people go. We get about 50-50 people start with tools and calculators or start with the product. So they've got the option here. It's meeting most people's needs, which certainly the Santander isn't doing. You can see all the key call to actions, all the key product pages on one screen if you scroll a little. And again, then when you enter the product pages, imagery making it very clear how to apply, encouragement clear, what happens, how long does it take. So very different in terms of drawing people in immediately. Don't look at any pictures of people, just get straight into the content, straight into the calculator, straight into the product, depending on how you want to continue your journey. Catering for both needs right there from the mortgages landing page. Comparing products, this is absolutely key, particularly when we come to mobile devices. Figuring out the best way to help people compare a set of offers, where there are a number of things they need to be comparing, is a challenge. It is, and we find this in current accounts and mortgages and savings and all the markets that we look at in financial services. To be honest, it is a challenge. Some people are better at it than others. And we're looking particularly, as they here at Santander, this is where we actually ask consumers to go and find a specific product to find specific needs. So this time it's looking for a first-time buyer rate with the lowest APRC, no fee. Now, we set those tasks in conjunction with the clients. So we would never ask our consumers to do something they can't do. We don't set anybody up to fail. So when we do this, we would go into each of the sites and make sure this was actually possible and there was a product that met these needs. And as you can see, no site does particularly well in helping people look for products. And actually, the highest we get is just 51%, which is NatWest, and actually we've got Santander here getting the mere 30% effectiveness. We're getting an evaluation of 29%, which essentially means that's the percentage of people who said they had no problem. So 71% of people said, actually, I really had a problem finding this. We have a low satisfaction as well. So what's going on? Primarily, the issue is navigation, and then looking into, as I say, the comparison in a moment. People just didn't know where to go, where to start. So 35% said they didn't even know where to start. But actually then 41, 47 couldn't find it. They found the navigation hard to follow. People just didn't know where to go to find rates, which is a really simple task that, as I say, about 50% of users are going to be wanting to do. The first thing they come to the site is, let's just go and look at the products, let's go and look at the rates. People just cannot find them. A lot of those customer around, I was going around in circles, I was directed to start again, the website was confusing, the search didn't help me find what I wanted to find, very confusing, wanted me to put so many details. So people getting, say, very tied up in knots here in terms of finding the product. Low satisfaction compared to the highest we've got in the market. And I say this is the market where actually the highest success rate we got was only 51%. So it wasn't a high bar, but we're still getting, say, low satisfaction, low confidence in finding this product and finding these rates. And so when you start to look at the site, it's fairly obvious why people are struggling. So as we saw a minute ago, the landing page is a lot of imagery, pushing people down the page, all those call to actions, they find out more. So again, as you scroll and you lose the top label above the big picture, you're not necessarily clicking the right one. Which one do I want? Where can I just go to quickly to find the rates? I might think that's mortgage schemes, but no, it's not. That's about shared ownership. And to be honest, that I might actually am struggling there even to hit the right arrow because the arrows are way too small for a mobile device. It's really easy to hit the wrong one. And again, the product page itself is cluttered. There's a lot of small print here. And again, the drop downs are clear. And I have to go a long way down the page before I'm finding anything that's particularly relevant or interesting for me as I'm looking for products and looking for rates. Once I've eventually found the right page, it's within how much could I borrow, compare our mortgages, I've drilled down. Once I've finally found something that's going to show me what might be on offer to me, and I'll use as a given particular financial details to use, so they should all get the same result. We ask them not to use their own details at this point. That we should give them these are the parameters we're looking for, income, etc. So they should all get the same answer. When you actually get to this page, you do then get a list of products, but it's very difficult to compare them. They all sort of blend into one again, the headlines and the numbers. There's only just slight differentiation. To try and compare, you've got to slide up and down. It's just not going to happen. It's very difficult at this page to actually see what the differences between these products are and what might be more suitable for me than another one. It's not nationwide by contrast, and we saw nationwide actually overall top this category. Again, not perfect, but certainly getting people a higher success here in terms of, firstly, on that mortgages landing page, our mortgage rates straight into what have you got. The way they've done it in terms of drop downs means that's immediately accessible from the landing page, not going anywhere else. I'm just dropping it down within that landing page. Neat tap boxes will give me instant idea of what there is that would suit my needs in terms of simple information, value, deposit. And then the way that this comparison is done in terms of visualization is the carousel. The idea being you've got one laid out and they're all laid out next to each other, and what you see on the mobile device is a strip of the next one to show, okay, there's something over here. That's pretty effective. Certainly on a tablet, that works very well. On the mobile device, it works reasonably well. It is a reasonable solution rather than having things all the way down the page. It is a better solution because people can slide things backwards and fronts or forwards and see what there is and see what might suit my needs. Lloyd's, again, pretty clear. Again, straight in from the landing page. You have to fill in the calculator. It's got a few excess questions. Again, not perfect. Nobody's scoring particularly well here, but it is simpler to access. But what you get here is a way of ordering the results. So I've got a bunch of results. I haven't got them side by side here, but what I do have is the key things brought out in just visually a little more. I've got some on-page help. What do these numbers mean? But I've also got a way of ordering this to find, say, for example, the fee. We were looking at fees, we were looking at ARPC. So while it's not a side-by-side comparison, it is better in the sense that I can look at the stuff that really is important to me, but I can also print, email, or share it. It's often going to be the case that a mortgage isn't a single decision. I'm not making it on my own. I want to share this with somebody, and this makes it easy. As I said earlier, we do an awful lot of research in other markets as well, other verticals. This is an example from energy. This OVO in the UK market. So what this is just making the point is that this is not an issue that only financial services products have. Comparing complicated products and plans is something that a lot of industries struggle with. OVO particularly do it reasonably well. So what you've got here is a summary of those above the fold in one scroll. Again, this idea of people that I don't have a long mobile page of going down and up, down and up. And again, they've got this carousel idea. What they do is make it even more visually obvious there's something going on. They actually make the ones either side a little bit lower. So it just draws the eye and says, oh, what's going on there? You've got visual icons at the top that show that there are 3 plans available, strong carousel cues. And what's also very important is each line talks about one element. And it's all the same element. So the top line is always about the exit fee. The second line is about the fix. Next line is all about the discounts. It's really easy to scan quickly across the products and go, oh, that's the one I want. No exit fee, because I might be moving house. Fixed rate, because again, I want the confidence of what I'm going to pay. So that's the one for me. So again, a nice way of getting over this challenge of comparison on a mobile device. And again, this works really nicely on a tablet as well, or particularly again one of the larger phones that we have these days. So moving on quickly, I know we're running out of time. There's so much in this that I could talk about. Finally, onto the getting help area, and this is about the challenge of I've got a problem, I want to talk to somebody, I want some live chat, or I want the FAQ. How do I do that? Can I reach out and actually ask a question through the process? And as I say, we do focus a bit on live chat because that is increasingly what around half of consumers in most markets we look at actually gravitate to first. But also FAQ is still very important, integrated FAQ through through the journey, but also form help and support. So when I'm actually in the process of doing this application or decision in process, decision in principle, am I feeling supported there too? And again, that's something that really lets Santander down. So we've got a system where people are struggling to find what they're looking for. They're not feeling welcome anyway, because the landing page didn't make them feel that they were going to be able to find anything particularly easily. The navigation is letting them down. They can't find what they want. And now they're saying, well, actually, I can't even ask a question. I can't even ask and see if I can self-serve this problem, because I can't find the FAQ. It's buried. There's no live chat. The help and support and form isn't making my life any easier. Essentially, at this point, what people are doing is give up. You make life too hard. So product pages, there are some links, but again, it's links. There's nothing on the page. There's no FAQ, contextual FAQ. There's no live chat. There's no phone number on the page. I'm directed to go and find something else. I've got to go look at the help and support. There is a link to contact us, but it says explicitly talk to one of our mortgage advisors. That feels sales. I'm not ready necessarily for a conversation with an advisor yet. I just want to ask a simple question. It's probably in terms of phraseology, but in terms of sales as consumers, saying, okay, you're going to suck me into a sales process now, aren't you? I don't want that yet. Just help me with my question. There are a lot of links on this site that are way too small. Again, all those help and support. There is a link right at the bottom to FAQ, but it's just people are going to tap the wrong thing. And even if they find it, because it's buried at the bottom of the page, and to be honest, even if they get to the FAQ, it's not necessarily going to help, because the FAQ is a lot dense, long, unsearchable, and again, no progression here to anything else. So if this doesn't help me, I'm on my own, and I'm out of my journey now because I've gone to another page, and I'm just giving up, essentially. It's sort of death by 1,000 cuts at this point. And even if I do make it as far as the decision in principle, again, no help internally. There's no help within the menu. There's no help within the form. Simple, silly things like missing a box out and pressing continue just sends people to the top of the page. It doesn't tell them what they've done wrong. It makes you think something's just not happened. I'm going to go and press continue again because that didn't work. So it's just very frustrating in terms of little things that make this a difficult process to get through. Tell me what I've done wrong very clearly. Don't just let me intuit what it is that I've possibly done wrong by repeatedly telling me back to the top of the page I was on. Exiting, absolutely, lots of people are going to do this. It's a complicated process. It takes a while. I haven't necessarily got all the information I need here. I've got to go and ask somebody for something. Are you sure you want to save and exit the application? Okay, you've now given me a 10-digit number that there's no way I'm going to remember. It doesn't tell me it's going to email it to me or how I can help save it. It's just, again, putting barriers in my way of making this simple, easy, and quick. A lot of the brands we look at, again, say through some of the other markets that we look at, so LV, we do a lot of insurance, so health, home, car, insurance we look at. So you've got brands like LV putting contextual questions on the product page. Metro Bank, primarily about current accounts, simple site, but it does really put those contextual FAQs in the right place. Aviva Health Insurance. Aviva take a slightly different approach in that they have a almost curated journey. We'll see that in a moment, but very much about putting access to relevant FAQ exactly where users want it on the page, relevant to their journey, not taking them out of their journey to find the answer to a simple question. Energy Australia actually do very well in this. I said a moment ago, so we look at lots of different markets. Energy Australia do very well in terms of their on-page and then in quote help. You can always wake it up. You can always have a callback. You can always give them a call. The information just slides over the page. Again, keeps you in journey. The FAQ keeps, again, users in funnel. Answer specific questions that lead to uncertainty. So when will my plan start? What if I change my mind? I am still in the journey I was taking. I'm still buying, but I'm answering my question very simply while I remain in that process. And if this doesn't answer my question, I can have you call me. I can give you a call again, but I remain on the page that I was looking at. So the issue I mentioned a minute ago about the chatbot is essentially, it's not terribly intelligent. It's actually artificial intelligence, but it's essentially guided, curated help using a selection of easy questions. What are you looking for? Type in a free text. What claim is it? This is some relevant answers around that particular thing that you're asking. Also, but again, very important, what's my next step from here? Is it go into my account? Okay, I'd ask about making a claim. Yeah, I can go into my account and do that. It directs people to a phone numbers, range of contact numbers at the bottom of the page if this did not answer my question. Then you can carry on talking to the chatbot if you want. So a slightly, to say, different but curated guide through the FAQ, which just a little bit more helpful than just here's a page if you can ask questions. It's up to you to go and find which one suits your needs. So I've talked a lot. I've talked about 45 minutes. Hopefully that was interesting. There is a tremendous amount more in here that we could possibly talk about in the session today. But I think hopefully we've shown that while Santander is still a very significant player in the UK financial services market, we are seeing certainly final preferences across mortgages decline, current accounts and savings wobbly at best. So there's something going on, particularly on the mobile devices, which is what we're talking about here very strongly. They're losing more than half of put them on the shortlist across all of those verticals, and particularly mortgages, the worst lost opportunity in the market for mortgages. And that's really laid at the feet, I think a lot of the problems are laid at the feet of the difficult issues and the issues that users are having within the mobile site. The landing page scores poorly with navigation, ease of use, encouragement to continue. People are saying, well, actually, why would I go any further? This looks hard work. Navigation is poor. People are really struggling to find those rates. We had just this 30% of people find a particular product. Comparison's very hard. There's no help and support that's integrated within the content and the decision pages. So if I've got a problem, again, I'm left to my own devices. And these call to actions didn't say all of the navigation is small and hard to tap. It's very much these days about death by 1,000 cuts. It's hard work. It's too hard to do. I can't find what I want. I can't compare. I can't find anybody who will help me. I don't know what to do next. I am going to go somewhere else what makes this easier. So as I say, there's so much more to see, but we are very much out of time. There is, a wealth of data within the products that I've shown you. There is new data going on all the time in these markets is about to launch. So there's immediate access to historical data. Normally, this kind of session with clients will take maybe 3 hours, where we go through very specific client pain, and we've been able to see just a snapshot today. So hopefully that was interesting for everybody. Thank you very much for your attention this morning. I know taking some time out of your very busy diaries. I do appreciate it. If you have any questions, any queries, please do email me, rebecca.jennings@globalreviews.com, or go to the website, www.globalreviews.com, and that would also give you a good insight into what we do, which markets we work in. So thank you very much for your time this morning. It's been great talking to you, and hopefully you're now up to speed a little more on what's going on in the UK financial services market. Thank you very much.